Hello guys, welcome back or welcome if you're new. It's Christian from Emotions in Wine. I hope you are getting ready for the festivities, for the holiday season. So today some tips regarding that, but no specifics, no tasting, nothing, just a bit of guidance if you need. Of course, if you are an expert, you will not need my help, but you may still hear something interesting about sparklings coming from other areas, not the usual suspects. So first one, communication. For Christmas there will be a break because 24th is Wednesday, my release day, so no point to do it. So we skip to the next week. So let's start. So nowadays, sparkling bubbles are at high quality levels in every corner of the planet, basically. I tried when I was in Asia from everywhere, South Africa, Australia, South America, California, of course, all Europe. So there is a lot of good choice. So even in your area, in many cases, you can have the production. In that case, probably you will drink your own. Or in your country, you may have few options, especially if you're in Europe, like in France, in Italy, and others. But there are different levels. So especially if your area is not producing, if you live in a big city where there is a lot of options on the market, these kind of tips can be interesting because you have more chance. For sure, many you can find only in the local markets, those that I will mention. But some, of course, like Cava, like Prosecco, like Champagne, these are available everywhere, plus some others. So we are going to talk about all this. So start from Prosecco, so the Charmat method. So the second fermentation done in big tank shortly. Prosecco is the flagship in the world for this category. Is the cheapest, but can be even very average, especially the low end. I always recommend at least to try to go, if you have a good taste, at least for a bit more selection. So a better winery, in the case of Prosecco, better Valdobbiadene than DOCG, so not the DOC simple. So it's the historic area where the quality levels are a bit better. You have many other Charmat sparkling nowadays in many countries, not that famous like Prosecco, not that built and quite wide, quite big area, because Prosecco now is made in almost two regions, Friuli and Veneto. So the others are tiny productions, but you can find in many countries. So that is the entry level. For the Prosecco, there is the strange thing of brut and extra dry. Extra dry in English should mean drier than brut, but in this case it's the opposite. I think this was an Italian mistake in the old days. So brut is drier than extra dry. So extra dry for me is too sugary, but majority of people drink that. If you like a bit drier, of course, better brut. Going up, so to the most important and most relevant category, so the traditional method, so second fermentation in bottles, one by one, handled, minimum 12 months, usually the less strict appellations, but the most famous and important is 18 months or more. And then, of course, you have Riserva, Vintage, etc. But though that is the standard, this is another story, another quality, another product, and still you can find affordable ones. So Cava is the most famous example. Is for sure the best value for money. Then maybe in some emerging countries you can even find traditional method, new stuff, not too expensive. But Cava should be the best value for money because quality standards are quite good. Even the huge wineries are making still decent quality. Of course, I recommend to avoid those very commercial in the supermarket shelves everywhere, but at least a bit smaller. They have their own grapes, their long history, so it's really something relevant and pleasant. And as I said, the price is unbeatable for any other traditional method. Quite easy to find, is one of the most present in the markets. So that is also a point wherever you live, to be able to find something. Don't forget to ask help. If you need guidance, ask in the shop. Even if he's not a sommelier, he will know or she will know for sure something to give you a bit of help, tell about your taste. So to find, especially if you want to discover new things, if you are not going for the usual suspects that you know already. Champagne is champagne, undoubtedly. We are all big fans, professional, of champagne because of this terroir, its place, its everything. So the latitude, the climate, the soils, everything make it really special. There is a lot of competitors nowadays, as said, the quality raised, but very few can compete seriously with serious champagne. Of course, even in champagne, you have the very commercial in every shelf that are also affordable and nothing particular because they are very easy. But when you talk about the more famous Maison or the Récoltat Manipulant, RM, so the small wineries producing from grape to final product, that is the Récoltat Manipulant, there you can have outstanding quality and often even good price, because if they are not that famous, not too small but not too big, they may be very affordable. So another point, of course, you need to discover them. Even today, I see new names coming out that I never tried before and never seen. It's a matter also trying. Wine is even that. You need to taste. Sometimes you will be happy. Sometimes you will be disappointed. The best if you can do it in a wine bar or wine shop, because at least you don't have to pay a bottle. But that is the adventure of the wine taster. So champagne, of course, in general is quite pricey. In France, you have other regions that are a bit more affordable because they are less prestigious and productions are less relevant. The two most relevant are Crémant d'Alsace and Crémant de Bourgogne. Crémant de Bourgogne is quite similar to Champagne. Grapes, not all, because in Champagne you have also Pinot Meunier, besides Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. The others also in Burgundy, then quite similar, even if it's more southern. As Crémant d'Alsace instead is more north, so more, say, latitude of Champagne, but there they use different grapes, so it's a bit different story. Then you have also, these are the most relevant, then you have also other, even more affordable in the south of France and other regions, but these are the main. In the traditional countries, especially France and Italy, you have several regions where there is production of sparkling of good level. Talking about Italy, which is the second, of course, Franciacorta and Trento are the two most famous. Here we are also on the levels of Champagne as pricing, because it's quite historical regions, quite famous wineries, many doing top products even with longer aging. So in an international market, for sure, the price is at the same par of Champagne. Are they the same? No, because the terroir, as I said, is special. Indeed, there are top quality producers, some that can blindly compete seriously with Champagne, but usually there is still some different character. Then, of course, there is another point that in both Franciacorta and Trento, there is mostly Chardonnay, some Pinot Blanc, Pinot Noir, not that much. In Italy, there is another region still in Lombardy, because Franciacorta is Lombardy eastern part, while Trento is in Trentino, Alto Adige, so the region below Austria. In south of Lombardy, there is Oltrepo Pavese, that is instead based on Pinot Noir. They are a bit more affordable because it's less famous, is a bit more particular. Pinot Noir is also tougher to manage to get a good result. So they tend to be a bit richer than the fresher based on Chardonnay. But anyway, it's a quite relevant region. Then also in Italy, there are several other productions, not really regions, it's small production, some producers do making in different, even in the south, like Campania, also something very nice So you have spots here and there. This is something interesting. Also in the Mediterranean, you think how they can. More and more, even in Dalmatia, in Croatia, I try something. You need grapes with acidity, the terroir allowing, of course, then the harvest is very early to retain the acidity, but it's not easy in the Mediterranean, but there are more and more expressions, quite interesting. So the quality is higher everywhere. So that is a good point. You have many options. Interesting. That is great. So staying on the Western Europe, Germany is quite relevant, even if it's not that known, because Riesling is a perfect grape because of the acidity for this. It's a bit more aromatic than Chardonnay and Pinot. But it's interesting, in Germany they make since a while nice sparkling, also traditional method. Usually they leave a bit more sugar, so they tend to be more on the brut or even a bit higher level of the brut because of the high acidity of the Riesling. I remember some nice ones, not crazy expensive, usually not that aged for the second fermentation. So that is something to consider, especially if you like Riesling. And then there is the newer one, England, which I tried a couple of times. Is still something particular, is a bit more northern latitude. I think that besides the soil influences the result of the product. I was not impressed, but I appreciated. I think they are stepping up and progressing. It's also a matter of age of the vines, experience and everything. So they need some time to, the prices are not low because everything in the UK is expensive. That is the main handicap, but something to try. There are some already very good indeed. And then let's go to finish in the Eastern Europe that is becoming more and more relevant for several reasons. First of all, because they are competitive and they want to compete seriously nowadays. They are trying to catch up and they have a lot of points on their favor. They can be a bit less pricey, first of all. Second, terroir is amazing in many places, not just in Hungary, but also in Slovenia, in Croatia, as you've seen. So there are many regions favorable and others emerging, also in the Balkans. But sparkling, I would say, traditional method, mostly Hungary, which is already quite relevant, not big productions. Mostly in Tokaj, which is quite north, but also a bit near Balaton Lake. In Tokaj you have Furmint, so similar acidity to Riesling, that is the key point. So it's a perfect grape for the purpose. It's also cooler, so even lower alcohol. Aging potential is incredible, so they're making a great step up in quality and in development. Several links below also, because there are a couple of videos I made in Hungary. There was even the sparkling. Several are aged shortly. That is a bit the handicap, less complexity, but freshness, drinkability, pleasant products, no doubt. Prices are still affordable. The top expression, some vintages can be already expensive, but sure to keep an eye on. Of course, you will not find these products unless you are in London, New York, or Hong Kong, because in the other cities, the market of Hungarian wines is almost irrelevant. So only in the big metropolis you can find most of these Eastern European. But first is to know, and then if you have a chance to travel or if you live in one of those cities. Slovenia, which is very small but very relevant in wine already since a while, is not even considered anymore East Europe, is quite influenced by Italy. Goriška Brda, so the Collio of Slovenia, which is on the border. There they produce very nice or sparkling already a long time. There is also Ribolla Gialla in the case, but many use Chardonnay and a bit of Pinot Noir. But of course, also Ribolla is very, some 100%, some in percentage. Also in Friuli you have some expressions, but in Slovenia the quality is a bit more interesting for one main reason. The soil is similar, but that is more inner and a bit higher altitude, so it's a bit cooler. So retain more acidity, which in Friuli many times is a bit an issue, lacking. And also they are more vibrant, consequently less alcohol. So they tend to be more interesting from Slovenia. And they have a bit more Pinot Noir in many cases, while in Friuli Pinot Noir is very rare. So to keep an eye, they are not cheap. These are almost on par with the Italians, and it's a tiny production. But if you are in Slovenia, for sure you can try them. And some Slovenian wineries you can find even around. Some famous are worldwide present, so there is a chance. Croatia, to finish, is a bit also for me a recent discovery because I know more the coast, so the whites and the reds. There is one region in particular near Zagreb, so bordering Slovenia, so inner, good for sparkling, Pleševica. There are several wineries. They make, of course, still wines and sparkling, but there is a big focus, so it's quite a relevant region for traditional method. Even here, the classics, so Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, quite a bit of Pinot Noir, so they use it a lot. There are even some 100%. Also, the still Pinot Noir is interesting, so it's an emerging relevant wine region. And prices are slightly lower than Italy or France. So this is to keep an eye. For sure, if you go to Croatia, to try their own, because they are really interesting. Even here, they have some extra brut Pradosé. So they are already at a certain level also of progress, knowledge, experience, etc. And most probably you cannot find them out of Croatia because the production of Croatian wines is limited. So that is the main handicap. Probably only if you go to Croatia you can find, but keep it in mind. So a lot of tips, as said, ask, check. If you want, you can comment below so we can do a bit of chatting. If you have questions, if you want to ask me about a specific region, if I know some names, if I can give more guidance, I'm always available as usual. I always say comment please. So let me know in the comments below if you want some tips on any specific region or style. Hope you enjoy the holidays with a nice sparkling and also wine. And see you soon. Good holidays and salute.